Video games have told some great stories, in the realm of science fiction, fantasy, or modern tales that play out much like a TV show, film, or book. But some stories make less sense than others, and some have gaping plot holes, or world ideals that make no sense whatsoever. Hey Shackers, Greg here, and today I'm counting down the top 10 games with the most convoluted storylines. Now if a game is on here, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means the plot has a series of confusing and filled holes and needlessly complicated characters and subplots. I realize that some of you may disagree with my list, and you may think that some games on here you can understand perfectly, as long as you've played the game, read the graphic novel, seen the miniseries, and read someone's fanfiction. No. This is the stuff I'm talking about. Games can have offshoots and spin-offs, but if the core game has plot holes or unnecessary twists, turns, or lore that just boggles you, it's going to be on this list. Now prepare to be confused and dumbfounded. These are the top 10 most convoluted game stories ever.
Who am I? I don't know.
All actions have consequences. And ours have angered a god.
I put this game low on this list because the story does make sense, but the lore is buried and told in a bland manner through cards and pages of text. Imagine you get a new game, say Fallout 4, and inside the box you get a 400+ page book. Well, I'd set that aside and start my adventure, but now imagine in-game. Nothing is explained, the factions, the enemies, your purpose. It's all in the book. It's a unique way to explain lore, but the basic core of the story just isn't present in the Destiny game itself. I shouldn't have to read a medium-sized book of text to understand just what's going on in the world. No denying the world is creepy and has great atmosphere, but almost every Silent Hill game leaves more questions than answers. The majority of what Silent Hill is can be debated. Is it a cursed town, purgatory, hell, or your own worst nightmares from your crazed mind? Now part of this does add to the horror and suspense of the game. Not knowing why, who, or what can be a terrifying story device. However, the questions the game confronts you with are rarely answered in a straightforward fashion, leaving the player to interpret it to the best of his or her ability. The sequel to the wildly popular Chrono Trigger, the game bases itself around an alternate parallel universe, and my god it gets weird from there. Most of the characters don't speak or act normally, leading to awkward conversations. Tackle that with 45 party members you can recruit, all with their own stories. Gods, dragons, and other outlandish things help you along your quest to find who murdered you in an alternate dimension. Even after beating the game, it doesn't give you a clean ending. It leaves its ending up to interpretation for the player.
This is an emergency. Level 1 alert. Omega 1 restarting.
Yeah, so Japanese writing at its finest? The game is very deep and complex with heroes, villains, and a lot of politics. But a lot of this doesn't make a lot of sense. And that makes sense because the majority of the story was released as a Japanese-only book titled Xenogears Perfect Works. It takes a straightforward story and flips it into a complex mess of events and explains what essentially is a war between two warring countries and convolutes it to all hell. This game is the 5th in the series of 6. I'm already confused. Can we just start at 1?
I'm not.
This isn't a social call, Rucker. I'm here to take you in.
My people and I will resist you.
Aside from being told I'm pronouncing the game title wrong for years, the game's world is just confusing. Imagine Blade Runner with characters and motivations that are all over the place. In a world where people are unsure about everything and everyone. Where they hate people with augmented limbs. I've been told the original game did a lot of things well, but the multiple sequels and remakes have really taken its toll on the lore of the universe. All in all, the game is a cluster of a mess story-wise, in its current state. What started out as a simple story with a simple premise, Sora, a Keyblade master, is tasked with repairing the worlds by closing the doors that connected them to one another, and to find the door to the light. Well, all of that went out the window in Kingdom Hearts 2. Riddled with complex subplots and an introduction of the cult called Organization 13, caused the game to feel very anime-ish. Villains flopped around, and technology like computers and lasers were introduced, pulling you out of the fantasy world completely. To top it all off, the spin-off games on the 3DS, DS, and PSP added mountains of complications to the universe. I'm a huge fan of the series, but it's gotten really out of control. Well, I guess this is what happens when Disney writers step away from the sequels. The first 3 games told a great story. They explained what the Animus is, how it works, and took liberties and ideas from the Bible and the Book of Genesis. It told a good complex story with interesting characters and scenarios, but most importantly, it gave you a reason to be running around the Renaissance killing Templars. However, the series has clearly given up trying to make sense of what happened after Assassin's Creed 3. Although Black Flag was one of the best Assassin's Creed games to date, the reasoning, thought, and side story of the Animus was left behind and explained as a form of entertainment for anyone, completely missing the fact that you need to be related to these people to experience their memories. These Assassin's Creed story arcs are borderline confusing, and after 3, everything went out the window. What began with yet another simple story, X and Zero are maverick hunters that kill rogue robots bent on robot domination. It became a huge mess after X4, with no one staying dead, ever. Sigma came back as a virus, Zero died and then came back, not to mention the series' downward spiral of game quality. But the story just doesn't know where it wants to go anymore, and the characters got so bland and boring with every sequel pumped out by Capcom. I mean, do you guys remember Axel? Yeah, either no one does or no one wants to. The Mega Man X series dug its own grave with a large amount of help from Capcom, thinking that X killing evil robots wasn't enough of a motivator.
You little... I got you! Go!
Stop! He's already dead!
The Final Fantasy games peaked in 1997 with the famous and arguably best in the series Final Fantasy VII. But man, the series has just declined over the years, and more so with 13 and Lightning Returns. But it all started with 10, and the annoying sequels that kept the world alive. Everything about 10 made little or no sense, from Blitzball being played underwater for some reason, to Tidus being transported to a different world and just kinda being okay with it. And conveniently, Blitzball still exists in this different world. Not to mention his father being a giant monster ball that kills worlds. I didn't understand and I couldn't get into it. Every single plot point that tried to answer my questions left 2 more unanswered. Oh, the Final Fantasy series. I'll stick with 5, 6, 7, and 9 and call it a day. Wow, so where do I even begin with this one? The game has so many bizarre villains, subplots, and loopholes. The Metal Gear games are extremely difficult to follow, and having the game breaking the 4th wall just makes it even more confusing. Solid Snake isn't Snake, but Big Boss, or was it Big Boss was a clone of Solid Snake? I don't even know anymore. Debates have raged via online forums, YouTube comments, and spawned multiple videos attempting to break down the plot hole mess that is the Metal Gear Solid universe. There are sites that are 100% dedicated, that try to make sense about the orders and events and plots of the Metal Gear Solid universe. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay is awesome, but I was completely lost on why, when, and who I was, what I was doing, or why I was doing it. I think we can all agree that the Metal Gear series is one of the most enjoyable but convoluted video game worlds in all of gaming history. What game stories did you guys find convoluted and confusing? Let us know in the comments below. For more videos like this and everything else gaming related, you're already in the right place. You're on Shacknews.com.